Fortunate to work with Caitlin for over 4 years now. She has an amazing background with over 15 years of marketing experience. This webinar is expected to take about 30 minutes in total. We're leaving some time for questions at the end. You can submit questions at any time during the presentation and we'll address them at the end. I know she's excited to get started and share her knowledge, so I'll turn it over to her now.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Cindy. That's awesome. So I'm so thrilled to be talking about my absolute favorite part of marketing with you guys today, content marketing. We ran this a few months ago and it was super well received, so we just decided to run it again, and we're thrilled again with the number of people who signed up and who are attending. So thank you very much for taking the time to be here with us today. So my goal is to convince you that you need to be doing content marketing to grow your business and to give you a roadmap for how to do that. So let's get started. Here's what we're going to cover. We'll start with why content marketing, and then we'll define content marketing in what I think is a pretty simple way. Then we'll talk about how content, we'll talk about where to start with all of your content. Then we'll talk about how content needs to align to your sales funnel to boost sales, and then where to source content ideas. This area is the sourcing content ideas. It's where a lot of companies get stuck. We'll cover all of the elements that you need to have considered for a successful content strategy. And then we'll talk about a day in the life of a piece of content, like everything that needs to come together to create a really awesome piece of content, soup to nuts. And then we'll end with best-in-class content case studies so that you guys can see what companies are out there who are like really nailing it and the kinds of results you can see if you do the same. All right, so you've all seen the numbers on content. Like that's why you're here, right? You can't ignore the stats at this point. Like the one in the lower left-hand corner here, 9 out of 10 B2B buyers say online content has a moderate to major effect on purchasing decisions. And then the one in the middle, B2B buyers are typically 57% of the way to a buying decision before actively engaging with sales. There is no marketing campaign that you can run these days that isn't content-based in some way. So like whether that content is an ebook or an infographic or it's just ad copy, marketing is involved, and all marketing is fueled by content. So more importantly, I think what these stats really show is that content is how your buyers are making decisions. It's really how they're first hearing about you. It helps them decide whether they want to engage with you at all. And then if it's done well, it shepherds them through the buying cycle. Okay, before we go any further, I want to make sure that we're on the same page about what content marketing actually is. So Content Marketing Institute, which is a really great resource for those of you kind of looking to dig in a little further into content marketing, they define it as valuable, relevant, and consistent content that helps educate a specific audience with the goal of driving profitable action. So it does not overtly sell your product or services. So here's an example. On the left here is an ebook that we put together for professional services. It talks about why services marketing is unique, the biggest mistakes that firms make when they're marketing, and then what to look for in a professional services marketing partner. What we've done here is we've used our expertise to build something that's actually helpful for a very specific audience. What you have on the right here is an example of what is not content marketing. So this is Magnitude's overview brochure that talks about our expertise. It talks about our offerings, our client roster. You've got, how we work with companies in there. This is overtly selling our services, right? So while you need all of these different forms of content, you're not going to send the thing on the right here, this brochure, to your email list and expect that people are going to read it and magically want to buy your services. That's just not the way it goes. So why content marketing? What we're going to do here is we're going to get a baseline. I'm going to do a poll. You'll see the question pop up on your screen. What grade would you give your content marketing today? So what you guys are thinking about that, and you can kind of move that around your screen as you want to. I'll share more about the why behind content marketing. From a marketing perspective, content supports all of the other areas of marketing. It's the fuel behind all of it, right? Especially lead gen and SEO. You can't rank on search engines if you don't have content. So it also helps you build a strong brand authority and reputation. From a sales perspective, and let's be honest, this is the reason we're all here today, is to, it starts the relationship off on the right foot. Buyers, they know and they trust you, and you've managed to kind of sell your services to these people already in some way. At least a lot of the leads that have come through content marketing for us, they're already so much further down the pipeline, and it's so much easier. The sale happens so much faster with us and our clients, of course. It also levels the playing field, right? It puts you in the same competitive set as your competitors. And lastly, it guides buyers through the purchase cycle. And then last but not least, it gets results. I love this stat here at the bottom. 89% of B2B marketers use content marketing, and of the 11% who don't, half expect that they'll start using it within the year. The implication of that is really that if you aren't doing content marketing well, your competitors will be. So let's take a look at this poll and see how we're all doing. Okay, on your screen, you guys should be seeing the poll results here. It looks like everybody, they're a little all over the place. We've got some Bs, we've got some Ds, no As, Bs, Cs, Ds, and Fs. Mostly Bs. So for those Bs people, those Bs out there, I think it's awesome that you guys think that you're doing fairly well. Hopefully you'll get some ideas through this to really boost yourselves up to an A. For the Cs, Ds, and Fs, looks like you're thinking you're kind of a little below average or right on par with average. So I think you're spending time exactly where you should be here today. So thanks for joining. Kudos to you. Okay. Moving on. So why is content so critical? People work with who they like at the end of the day, right? As leaders of your firms, you're really selling yourself, your team, your IP, your knowledge. People are buying you. And content proves that you're really the expert in your area. Thought leadership content specifically associates you with brands, influencers, and trends that you're talking about in your content. And it humanizes you. Like, you're not just ABC services company, you're Dave. Content is really your brand these days. Let me give you an example. My personal favorite content is from this woman named Tara Moore. She's an author who wrote the book Playing Big. She sells leadership coaching and workshops around finding your purpose. Whenever she writes something, she always sends it via email. And I literally stop what I'm doing to read this, or I squirrel it away so that I can read it when I can really have the time to enjoy it. So I encourage you to think about the content that you read and stop everything for. How can that translate to your business? Okay. So hopefully by now I've convinced you that content marketing is actually worth doing. So where do you start? You start with who you're selling to, your buyers. So this might seem like a duh concept, of course, but it really does require discipline. And we've seen a lot of companies choose to write content because for the wrong reasons. The CEO wants to write a blog about some topic that's relevant to him or her. or there's some trending topic like the coronavirus that they want to, to jump on the bandwagon and earn some of that, that newsworthy stuff out there. Start with your buyers and don't underestimate the importance of that. So here are two real examples from one of our clients in the contact center consulting space. Buyers and marketing language, of course, is personas. You'll notice that one on the left here, the one on the left here is Susie Green. She's business focused. And then you have John Doe on the right. That's more of a technical focus there. So here's the challenge. Your content needs to address both of these people. And that oftentimes means different content. One other layer to kind of add to this is that your buyer, these two people are usually not the only person involved in a sale. Like your buyer might be the decision maker, but there are often a lot of other stakeholders involved, like heads of business units and external advisors and the like. If you don't catch the attention of these two people though, you're not going to get any further to any of those people. So you want your content to be shared through them to the important people. Okay, so we know where we're starting. Where do we go next? This was the most popular slide from the last session, so hopefully you guys find this really interesting and helpful. Once you've got your personas in mind, you want to figure out which content to write based on your sales funnel. So there's a number of different funnels out there with different categories. In general, this is the way that we think about the funnel and these different categories on the left. We add client growth at the bottom because that's so critical, and a lot of people miss that, we think. We've also ranked these, all the different things on the right, in terms of effectiveness based on research by the Content Marketing Institute again, and from our own experience. So starting at the top here with awareness in green, if you're aiming to get eyeballs on your website and drive awareness of your brand, write blogs. They're pretty easy to put together and can add a lot of value for people and for driving traffic to your website. If you want to get leads, think about a guide or an ebook. Like they're more work, but they're lead generating. So you get your money's worth really at the end of the day. If you want to get more sales, here in the red, write case studies. Your prospects begin to see the way things would actually come together working with you. Also think about webinars or events. And then to grow your existing accounts, think about like a client exclusive forum, more events, ways that you can share success and lessons learned, for example. So the goal here is really for people to be able to pick and choose the content that they want to consume from you when they want it, right? Like they don't say, okay, I'm ready to go from awareness into consideration. Now you can give me this. Like they move through this funnel at their own pace when they want to. So you need to have all of this content teed up for them to do this journey on their own. Easier said than done, right? Okay, so now that you know the purpose of your content, let's figure out what we're actually going to write about. So what we do is we group topics into 3 to 4 overarching pillars or themes, and they become like major areas that we focus on that year. This is usually where we start so that content is actually building towards something and not like all over the place, writing about one thing one week and something completely different the following week. So you can source topics from keywords. The magic trifecta for keywords is high volume, high suggested bid, and low difficulty to rank for. I'm going to say that again. High volume, high suggested bid, low difficulty to rank for. We could do a whole webinar on that alone, but know that it's really important for keywords to be part of your content planning process. You can also source from sales, customer, and ecosystem conversations. So like think about what kind of questions or prospects your customers are actually asking you. Like what are they struggling with? I mentioned that contact center consulting company earlier. Their prospects ask them questions like, which contact center technology provider should I use? And like, how do I improve agent turnover? So what they did is they just wrote blogs about each of those pieces so they could use them as part of their sales process. You can also source from industry news and trends, like what's trending that you have a perspective on. For that same contact center consulting company, cloud, omnichannel, and AI are the trends that their content should be addressing in some way. And then from content planning tools, like what are they writing about? Like our favorites are SEMrush and BuzzSumo. Those are two great tools. And then competitors, like what are your competitors talking about? What's your unique spin on that? Like remember though, with any competitor content, to take it with a grain of salt. The point is really not to copy their ideas, but to be informed by them. Like you never know if they're writing about the completely wrong thing and how well it's actually performing. So don't steal it, but do be informed by it. Okay, here's an expert tip for you. Create content with partner firms that have similar target audiences to grow your reach exponentially. One of my clients has done an awesome job with this. They're an executive search firm, and they target the biopharma industry, which is like notoriously difficult to penetrate. What they did is they did a series of reports on the state of the Boston biopharma ecosystem, and they partnered with other firms in the Boston area that had really strong relationships in biopharma. One of those firms was Goodwin Law, one of the biggest law firms out there. So it's been awesome for them in terms of like lead gen, because they get to share all the leads. Both companies get the leads from that content. And it's been awesome for them too in terms of brand awareness. And then of course it's helped them build the relationship with these partner firms as well. So I encourage you to think about like, are there any firms out there that have a similar target audience and a really strong brand presence that would be willing to partner on some content with you? Okay, so now you've got your buyer, you've aligned to your funnel, and you've sourced your topic idea. Now it's time to map out your content in a strategic plan. Why do you do this? Like, why do you need to put it all together in one place? Frankly, like you want to be proactive with your content, not reactionary. Like things are going to come up. You're going to have something come up and you're going to want to write that. And that's okay. I think you just need to know what's the give and take there. Like what content are you not choosing to write because you're writing something else? A lot of people ask us how far ahead we plan our content for our clients. I find that planning about a quarter ahead is a good practice. So we know what content we're writing for all of our clients right now at throughout Q2. And then kind of mid Q2 is when we'll start planning for Q3. A lot of times it's planned out much further ahead, but so many things happen that make that harder to achieve. So here are all the different elements that go into your strategic content plan. I'm going to be following up with a template for all of you to use with definitions for each of these different areas. I'm not going to talk about all of them, but I do want to discuss two of them that I think you might get hung up on. This existing piece right here, this one is really around whether or not you already have that content in some form. One thing we learned is that if you've got a piece of content that's working, don't do more like it, do more with it. So add a video, make it an infographic, add an update. Like if something's working, use it more. Get creative about how you're using it. Another element to discuss here is this gated piece here. So for my non-marketers out there, gating something essentially means that it's behind a form on your website. So you're asking people to give you their email in exchange for it. There's a ton of discourse around this right now, specifically around the idea that you should like never gate anything, give all your content away for free. The jury honestly is still out on this for me. Like I love the concept but we get so many good leads from our content that like opt in for us to market to them. And that, I mean, I'm just not really ready to convert to non-gated completely anytime soon, but it is on my radar. So all of these things need to be addressed to keep the content train running on schedule. And they're things that we do every day with our clients. So we'll be doing another poll here in just a moment, but first I'll walk you through a day in the life of a piece of content. So what we've done is we've illustrated this like a path. So you can see that there's a lot of steps here, and that each stop along the way requires iteration, right? It's not always linear. So for instance, like the train might stop at design, and then it might like have to get off because the designer goes on vacation for a little bit. Like then they come back on, you've got, 4 different iterations of design, and then you move on to distribute, and you might have to wait a week at distribute because, there's a vacation, there's a holiday coming up and you don't want to send out content during a holiday week, for instance. So this is not a linear thing. But it all starts with conceptualizing the idea, of course, and then aligning to the buyer in the funnel stage. Writing comes next. Don't skimp here. If you leave with anything today, hopefully you leave with this. If you're aiming to reach like an executive level audience with your content, which a lot of people are in certain industries, you need somebody who can really target, who really understands the industry, like who they understand the nuances of what your buyer is going through. They understand the trends. Like if you're having an intern or an associate who's out of college for a couple of years write this for you, you're probably going to miss the mark, frankly. So for instance, we do a lot of work in the cybersecurity space. And we've learned over the course of our journey that we have to recruit writers who specialize in cybersecurity because the audience is so skeptical of marketing there. You need somebody who really understands that space, like down to the acronyms that you use and the way that these people like to be spoken to. Our other writers can often write for a number of different industries, but cybersecurity, for instance, isn't one of those. Something to think about as you're writing your content. Once you've written, you want to review the content for grammar and tone of voice. I write a lot of content, and I always make sure that it goes through one of my team members before I send it on to any clients because I'm gonna miss something. I wrote it, right? Then you want it designed, make it beautiful, and then distribute. Come up with your distribution plan, whatever that is. Share on social, share via email, set up some paid ads on LinkedIn, some PPC perhaps, make it a contributed article, send it in one-to-one messages to partners or prospects, whatever that distribution plan looks like. Make sure your content that you work so hard on actually gets out to the people that you want to get out to, and then measure it. There's different measurements, of course, based on the type of content. Like if it's a lead generating piece, you're going to measure it based on number of leads, right? If it's a more, a brand awareness kind of piece, like a blog, you may use page views over time on page, social shares, things like that. So a lot of firms out there make this whole process look really easy. Like they're pushing out several blogs a week, but know that they have a full content engine stopping at all of these points behind the scenes. Okay, so now that you have a sense for what each of these areas are, I'm going to launch this webinar poll. Okay, which of these areas do you consider the most difficult? I'll give you guys a couple seconds to vote on this. Interesting. Yeah, okay. All right, I'm gonna end this poll so we can, and I'll share the results with you guys. So it looks like, hopefully everybody can see these results. It looks like the most difficult steps for people are aligning to the buyer and the funnel stage. That is hard, and hopefully that that funnel slide will help you guys think about that a little bit differently than you may have in the past. Write, of course, like that's hard, like actually making the time to sit down and write when you've got everything else that you have to do for your business. Interesting. And then measure. Yeah, measurement is really important. But I feel like with measurement, like we overcomplicate it. So we think about, like, I need to think about, you know, how many people are viewing this entire page. Like it's a lot of times, like I said, it's more obvious than that. Like if it's a lead generating piece, leads, that's how you measure. If it's a blog post, you're gonna measure by different things, right? Like the number of page views you get. If it's a case study, like you're just simply not going to get as many eyeballs on that, period. But like, are people saying that it's helpful throughout the sales process in really helping them understand the work that you can do together? Okay, great. Thank you for your input on that. All right, so here's our crowning achievement, right? The success stories. If you do content the right way, it generates some really good results. So for one of our clients here on the left, they're an executive search firm. Just one piece of content generated 223 leads. So they say had some seriously awesome proprietary data and they just didn't know what to do with it. Like they're an executive search firm, right? They had compensation data for salespeople in the digital health space. We were like, give us that, please, like let us play with that. So we helped them understand what data to pull, then we analyzed it for them, and then we wrote the piece, we designed it, and then we distributed it. And so soup to nuts, we supported them with that, and they got 223 leads from that one report. Another one of our clients, a healthcare data provider, they ran a series of infographics and they got 784 unique leads from that. So that's huge, right? Like these numbers are pretty exciting. When you think about them in terms of like one of these leads, like if they close one of these, that could mean, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars for both of these companies. So that's exciting. Okay. So I know you guys came for the content rather than to hear about us, but 30 seconds about us. I wanted to share more about what we do. We are a full service B2B marketing agency, which means that we do like everything from strategy to email marketing to website development. If it's marketing, we do it, but our specialty is content marketing. But we're not a content farm. Like we're not publishing low value content that doesn't get read. We're keeping tabs on the trends in your industry. We write about what matters to your buyers. We like to think of it like we're actually enabling the subject matter experts at your company to have a voice. They have to focus on their day job, right? So we help make them thought leaders through really good content, like what you see here: blogs, contributed articles that get published in Forbes, infographics, things like that. Okay. Questions? Cindy, have any questions come in?
Yeah, we had a couple come in. So knowing that we can't always write a lot of content, how many pieces of content should we be creating and what is that cadence?
Yeah, so I would say if you can write 3 or 4 blogs, like, or short, what we call short form pieces of content, like blogs, maybe an infographic, for instance, like something that is easily consumable. If you can do 3 or 4 of those a quarter, and then 1 or 2 long form pieces of content, like an ebook or a white paper, that really should get you a pretty good response and help build up your kind of suite of content to bring people down that funnel pretty quickly.
Okay, great. And then should I be posting on the blog versus LinkedIn or both?
Oh, I love that question. Okay, so I would say my recommendation is if you have a good LinkedIn following, if you have like a blog that's really interesting, for instance, you write an article, if you have a good following, post a good number of connections, post it on LinkedIn first, get all the traction that you can get on LinkedIn, right? Because people are engaged, they want to comment on things, and so on. You can share it, you get eyeballs on that quickly. Once it's been on LinkedIn for, I'd say, a week or two, then I would pull it directly into your blog and then post it on your blog, of course, and then like have a little blurb at the top that says like, this post was originally published on LinkedIn by, you know, whoever that person was. So that's my recommendation for that.
Okay, great. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you to all the attendees, and thank you, Caitlin, for a great webinar.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Check your email. We'll be sending the content map and plan template, today's slides, and a recording of the webinar. Appreciate you spending time with us this morning. Thank you.